everybody. Welcome to the Unfiltered and Caffeinated podcast. This is your one and only host, Adam Watts. I'm halfway through a cup of Storyville coffee, and so I'm half caff. This is mostly filtered and half caffeinated. First part of the podcast. I haven't been doing these podcasts lately because I've been extremely uninterested in my own thoughts. And so I had really nothing that I wanted to say and then put on the internet. And though my interest level in my own thoughts hasn't really taken a big step up, I just figured I got a little, I felt a little guilty that I had a series, a new podcast series, and there was only 3 of them, and then it looked like I quit, but I don't want to be a quitter, so this is unfiltered, guilt-ridden, and half-caffeinated. I'm excited, though, about a couple things. One, I feel like I just started making my next record with a song that I wrote and mostly recorded yesterday. It's called Ever Again. And I've been in a bit of a songwriting and producing of my own music slump of sorts. I've made so much music in my life that I'm in this place where, I've been looking at my own work and from just art in general from so many different angles during the period of writing my book, The Human of Being Art. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but that process really opened Pandora's box for me. It was like, and whatever came out will never go back in, which I guess is the whole point of a Pandora's box. I don't really know the history of Pandora's box, but I just throw that phrase around. But to me, that's what it means. That's what I think it means, is just ideas that I'd really been thinking about here and there, off and on, and things that have been, driving my life, my artistic life, my life beyond art, and also my career, which is the blend of everything. All the things that have been driving that stuff, and all the tension that exists when you try to make your creativity into a career, and that art and commerce dilemma. Fueled the writing of the book, and once I got all of the way I think and feel about all that stuff on the table and tried to look at it through 100% subjective lens and then 100% objective lens and everywhere in between that I possibly could, it really it made a lot of things make sense for me. A lot of the kind of turmoil I'd gone through, also a lot of not that I've gone through, but that I go through also. And a lot of the, issues that I would, maybe push down. One of them being, I've been blessed with a really, a career that I'm somewhat proud of, and that, is nothing to scoff at, I guess, it's provided a lot for me in my life, and, paid the bills and then some, and so there's nothing really to complain about in that sense. But more on an artistic side, there's so much, for the most part, if you have a career in the arts, there's just a whole, if you want to make a living doing it, there's just this long list of compromises that I think most people need to make in order to make a living, because you end up getting hired, you end up working for other people, you end up not being able to do exactly what you want to do, and that ends up feeling incredibly wrong inside when you set out on a creative path, to make something from scratch that hopefully has never been made before. You have to follow your own instincts, but often there's a company or an A&R person, a project or whatever that is sort of defining how that creative process goes. And in a lot of ways, that's good, because it kind of gives you parameters to work in. But in other ways, they can be incredibly frustrating because you find yourself, on a roll and wanting to create something that's personal and authentic to you. And you have to remind yourself, this isn't about me. This is about this project. It's about, doing a good job. It is a job. And inevitably, the artist part of oneself starts to just get in this, little fight with what could have been, I guess, and for me, it's been, being a solo artist myself and working with tons of solo artists and bands and stuff. That part of my career, that's definitely one of my favorite things to do is to be, oops, I accidentally press play on this song. That's one of my favorite things to do is to stand alongside another artist in their journey and support them. My favorite way to do that is to go in with somebody where you're really you're all in it together, but everybody knows that it's about that artist. And your place, and it's really about support and filling in the gaps and helping to guide and have that different perspective and stuff. But there are other times where when you're working with an artist, it's a little bit more distant and it's kind of more business driven, or you're not necessarily the sort of right-hand man for that person, for that artist. You're kind of one of many, and you're there to, try to get some work and do a good job. And there's this interesting disconnect that happens where everybody's compromising to reach a goal, like get a radio single or make some music that the label's going to get behind because it sounds like a lot of people will buy it. And so you find yourself in this compromise cart rolling down the hill, and even the artist is in it, and they're a little bit worried that they may not have a career if this doesn't go well. And so everybody's kind of forced to be thinking relatively, our motivations, everybody's kind of motivated in this deeply selfish, sort of panicky way, I think subconsciously. It's like, oh, my life depends on this. My success depends on this. My career, everything, my reputation, whatever it might be. Yet you're supposed to be vulnerable and create your best work with that kind of pressure lurking in the background. And in those cases, it can be really frustrating because everybody's got a different idea of what's going to be great. Some people go after what's great by thinking about the marketplace and thinking about what fans will like, or what, radio stations will like, or their A&R person, or, the gatekeepers, which is a really regressive way to approach art. Or it's just a slippery slope, because when you have that stuff in your mind, whatever percentage of yourself is sort of worried about that stuff is a percentage of yourself you don't have to be just completely passionately released and focused on expressing yourself and making great work. So it sort of poisons the room, If you can imagine sitting in a studio, everybody's got a guitar and there's a couch and a bunch of music around, or you're in front of the piano and you're gathered there to make some music, and a certain part of everybody's consciousness is sort of like, I sure hope this next melody is the kind of melody that's going to make some money. That's just poisonous. But it's inevitable, because you have to find a way to think that way in order to sustain a career, unless, what you happen to do naturally happens to be what everybody likes and wants to buy, which is, of course, the dream and the goal. But if you're in a position, like I've been, where you're doing a ton of different styles of music with a ton of different kinds of people in all these different arenas, the Christian music industry, which has its own kind of set of parameters, and then the mainstream music industry, where you're working on an animated film, or you're doing something for a live action film, or you're doing something for a commercial or a TV show, or like there's so many different paradigms within a career that it's mind-boggling. So to have that kind of diversity going on, and to think that you can just not think about the business at all and just create whatever, and that it's going to work and that everybody's going to be happy, is just relatively unrealistic. You know, you have to somehow keep that commerciality in mind, or at least check back with it during the process, yet make something that's worth making in an artistic sense. And that process is just, it's a maze. It's a riddle wrapped in an enigma, sitting on top of a Rubik's Cube inside of a box. So really digging deep inside that stuff and writing my book and trying to put out there some kind of mental, emotional, spiritual structure in which to approach having, you know, a career in the arts, and also just being an artist and dealing with everything that's involved. Having done that at a point in my life where, you know, I started writing that book in my late 30s, and had made, I think, 7 solo albums. I was in the midst of making The Hero and the Pain when I really dug in and started writing the book, and then finished it while I was in the middle of writing the book. And, you know, I looked at just my published number of songs that I'd written, and it's somewhere in the 500s, so like 540 songs or something that I've published. And there's more than that I've written total, you know, before having a publishing deal, and songs that kind of went somewhere and then I, you know, aborted them. And that's, every time I write a song, I'm recording the whole thing top to bottom as well, for the most part. So that's just so much music. And I think the Pandora's box that I opened in writing the book is, and having that much work, you know, 500 and something songs is a lot. You know, it's just a number. It sounds like it's maybe not that much, but when you think about what it takes to make even one song, it's a lot. And I think in some way you can make the parallel that it's like having, you know, 500 and something relationships in your past, and you bring that baggage forward. You know, some of those relationships were great and just ended. Some of them are still going. Some of them totally failed. And that's kind of an analogy for songs, you know. And so I kind of had sort of cleared off the tabletop and thought, like, well, is it worth it to make even one more song? You know, 541, who's going to care? And do I care? And what, is anybody really listening? And all that, all those questions and doubts. And the ironic part is that that's so much of what I wrote about, is that, like, what's the purpose of what we do as artists, and what, you know, what do we put into it? What do we get out of it? What's the right mindset? Is there a right mindset? All that stuff. And, there's a lot of other things going on in my life too. Like, I had a child, and me and my wife had our first child, Rowan, and that brought in a whole other thing. And I felt the need to expand creatively, like I had been for the last 10 years anyway, photography and visual art, and a little bit of filmmaking mixed in there, leather working. Now I'm, you know, making knives and all kinds of different stuff. But, there was a piece of me that was like, I need to have a new, I don't know, to make music, it's got to matter a lot. It's got to be worth doing. It's got to, I can't just feel like I'm going through the motions. I never could. And for some reason, thinking about all these kind of ideas made me think, what's next, you know? So this brings me to my latest song. There's really two main songs that I've written recently that really feel like kind of part of my next phase as an artist. One's called When a Heart Wakes Up. My voice cracked. When a Heart Wakes Up. And this new one, Ever Again. And both of them, I realized I needed to just go straight toward. I needed to go straight at what I was, these underlying issues. So When a Heart Wakes Up is all about just kind of feeling that inspired feeling of, it's hard to describe. That's why I wrote the song. So luckily I don't have to describe it, because the song is, I kind of sneak peeked it on wearebrokencity.com. There's a little package of my music on the in our little merchandise store. I put a package together of music that's been featured in Broken City's Percussion's last few shows, and also some other shows in that marching arts drumline arena. There's 11 songs in there, and one of them is When a Heart Wakes Up. Threw it in there as like a little bonus. So if you want to hear it, you can go grab that little package. But that was the first song that was sort of like the kind of refocusing and kind of reemergence of what I'm going to do in my next phase musically. And then this song Yesterday is called Ever Again, and I already said that, but it's all about how I can't do things the way I used to. I need to find a new way that's going to feel 100% honest to me now that I've kind of had this awakening, I guess. So this new song rocks a bit. And When a Heart Wakes Up is kind of the opposite. So I'm imagining that this new phase is probably going to be pretty diverse in how it comes across. I don't even know. I mean, I don't ever really make albums. I don't set out to make an album. I set out to write a song and then write another one, and then after a certain period of months, it all starts to sound like an album is taking shape. And because of the inevitable sort of place I'm in and the things I'm interested in sonically and where I'm at emotionally and in my life in general, there tends to be this sort of connectivity between it all, and it starts to feel like an album. And these days, I mean, everybody's talking about how albums are an antiquated thing, but I think collections of songs will never be an antiquated thing, because it's just, I think people tend to go through phases in life, and when an artist goes through a phase, they create a collection of music, and the phase kind of has a beginning, middle, and end, and that's a collection of music that makes sense for it to be kind of collected together, and an album represents that phase. So I hate to see the idea of the album or the idea of the artistic phase go away. I don't care if it's an album or whatever, but just it's nice to have a collection of songs from an artist's phase, so whatever that is. Maybe we'll call them phases. But I also like the idea of creating music and then putting it out around the time you created it, so that your people that are interested in your work can experience it kind of alongside you, as opposed to taking a year and a half to make an album or whatever, and then putting it out after that. You're so far ahead of your audience that there's this disconnect there. So that's the beauty of technology, is that we don't have to have that waiting period anymore. So I'm of two minds about it. Maybe all it means is that you just put the music out and you attach it to a phase title, and instead of it being an album where you have to hold it back from people, you just release it as you go, And then when the phase is over, you stop calling it whatever that phase is. I don't know. That sounds like a good idea. Anyways, it's been good to be back. I'm excited about making new music. I'm excited about what Broken City Percussion is doing. They're in Dayton, Ohio right now, and they're killing it. This has been an incredible season. This is the second official Broken City season, but unofficially it's the third, because we're calling this the Bloom Trilogy. So 2015, the show was called Bloom, and there was a bunch of, it was kind of built upon my song Bloom from my album Way Out. A bunch of vocals from that song were in there, and then it expanded, bloomed out from there, and that was really the birth of Broken City, as being like, you know, myself, Mike Jackson, and Kevin Shaw as the core creative kind of content creation team. And then we did Cage, and that started as being inspired by my song Cage, but then a bunch of stuff from my song Reborn emerged in there, and From Here You're On Your Own, the kind of lyric concept was in there. And those are songs on The Hero and the Pain. And then this year, Spine, as we kind of took the creative process to another level, and I wrote some stuff, which began with that piano part, that bum 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 bum. It's in the show, if you've seen it online or whatever. Kind of created this piece around that, and I just handed it to them and said, just see if this works, and they made it work insanely. It's incredible what they've done with just a fairly simple theme, and then they took music from, or I gave them vocals from Running Out of Heroes, another song on The Hero and the Pain, and they reharmonized and recontextualized that, and it's been an incredible and awesome season, and really just meaningful to me, just to be part of that activity again, because that's where I kind of, my artistic journey really started in many ways, in terms of just my seriousness about it and stuff in high school, you know, being taught by Mike Jackson, who now we're just, you know, friends, but back then he was a mentor and and somebody I really looked up to. I still look up to him. He's an amazing guy, amazing artist. But to kind of come back to that world and be a part of it in this kind of unique way, where, you know, I'm writing kind of for it, but I'm also at a distance, because they're doing, you know, the bulk of the creative work, but I'm there, you know, contributing in whatever way I can. And it's becoming this cool thing where there obviously are no rules to how we collaborate. Sometimes it starts with something I give them. Sometimes they just kind of search through my music and grab something they want. They just tell me, like, give me the vocals to this song, and I do. And then they contextualize it. Or they'll write something and send it to me and say, hey, write over this. You know, that's what happened this year. They sent me a couple minutes of music, and Mike was on a voice recorder saying, start here, end here, start here, end here. And I wrote some stuff over it and sent it back to him, and that became the chunk near the end where I say, you know, lights out, I'm alone with the rush of the blood in my veins, that whole part. It was just amazing to see how visually that all came together, and people seem to be really enjoying it and connecting to it, and the playing is on it just keeps getting better every season. If you haven't seen it and you're listening to this and you're either bored or kind of have a question mark hanging over your head, just go to Broken City Artists YouTube page, and you'll see video of the show on there, of all the shows. It's been a blast, and they're like I said, they're out in Ohio right now doing their I think third performance tonight. All right, anyway, that has been really gratifying to be involved in that, so thank you, Kevin, Mike, Roger, everybody. All right, guys, see you next time. Good night and good morning.